This is my second day on the job as the architect of this reality, and I'm starting to notice that the whole realm has gone completely off the rails. In some forgotten town in the sticks, a teenager found an old ring and now spends his days muttering to himself about building a soul funnel or something. A dreadlord of the abyss, infamous for his cruelty, suddenly had a personality transplant. He's got this thing called a system now, and it's making him complete bizarre quests for rewards that materialize out of thin air. The Archmage of the Argent Spire is being served divorce papers by his wife, who's demanding half of his magical essence as alimony. And the Blade Saint of the Serene Peak, a woman known for being as cold and sharp as her sword, is ready to betray her entire order for some novice-tier apprentice she just met. Oh, and what's this? Some sorcerer running around calling everyone mom? There's more. A lot more. Looking at all this as the new guy in charge, I can only come to one conclusion. Something is deeply, fundamentally wrong with this world. It's my second day, and I'm still cleaning up the mess my predecessor left behind. The guy just ghosted me 3 days ago. No notes, no forwarding address, just vanished, forcing me, the intern, to take over the whole operation. To me, in the architect's view, the entire world looks like a vast simulation, a sandbox I can alter with a wave of my hand. Of course, I'm not supposed to have to do much. The first architect set up the core of physics, the flow of mana, the cycle of karma, all that basic stuff. Subsequent architects were just supposed to be sysadmins, performing routine maintenance. Based on the onboarding materials, I figured it'd be a pretty chill gig. Keep the world turning, make sure the laws of magic don't break down. Simple, but I was wrong. So wrong. Can you imagine the feeling on your very first day of opening the main console and seeing a sea of red error messages? Data anomaly, logic conflict, violation of the law of conservation of mana. What fresh hell is this? Is this a high fantasy realm or a corrupted hard drive? Answer me. Look me in the eye. Okay, deep breaths. Calm down. Long story short, my entire first day was spent debugging. I didn't get a single other thing done. And now, I'm finally getting around to reading my predecessor's work log. Day 1 as architect, slept in. Day 2 napped. Day 3, another good nap. Day 4, man, I really gotta stop slacking off. The entire fabric of reality depends on me. How can I possibly sleep at a time like this? Day 5, slept like a baby. I slammed the logbook shut. It's fine. It's totally fine. I'm not going to get angry over the gross incompetence of a cosmic entity I've never met, right? Next on the list, check the admin permission logs. I forced my attention away from the Chronicle of Dereliction and pulled up the access history. It was worse. Ooh, a red button. I wonder what happens if I push it. WHOA, why is it so loud? Huh. Was this tributary always part of the River of Time? Why isn't this region functioning correctly? Why is this region functioning correctly? Why do the monsters in this area have pointy heads? There were hundreds of these little annotations trailing after the permission calls, each one representing a direct intervention in the laws of reality. That was bad enough, but it was the very last entry that made my blood run cold. Yeah, I think I broke it. Gotta bounce. Oops. The timestamp was from the day he vanished. Huh. So that's how it is. I chuckled, a cold, humorless sound. I could feel my teeth grinding. My dear predecessor, you better hope I never find you. Okay, put the homicidal rage on the back burner. Priority 1 is dealing with these anomalies. I sighed and tapped on the first flashing red dot on my console. In the next instant, I was standing on the outskirts of a small, forgotten village. The error report said a local boy had found an ancient ring in the woods and had started talking to it. Simple enough. The ring was supposed to contain the remnant soul of a wise, ancient sage. That was the original script. But now, the soul in the ring was a malevolent soul eater. Peeking into the River of Time, I could see the kid's intended plotline. With the help of the wise sage, he was supposed to live out a classic underdog story, getting revenge on everyone who'd ever wronged him. Yep, I rewound the timeline a bit. And there it was, last month, his fiancée publicly breaking up with him in the town square. Why am I not surprised? I closed the architect's view, shaking my head, and strolled into the village. It was a tiny place, maybe 30 people total. It was just after dinner, and a few old folks were out for a walk. As I approached, their eyes, one by one, fixed on me. There was caution, curiosity, confusion. I studied them as they studied me, my brow furrowing deeper the more I looked. "Can I help you, stranger?" An old man asked, leaning heavily on his cane as he approached. "I'm looking for someone." The village elder told me where to find the boy. I thanked him, gave his shoulder a gentle pat, and walked away as casually as I could. Then I looked down at my hand. A wisp of black, toxic energy coiled in my palm. Vicious stuff. It wouldn't harm me, but for a normal person, it was lethal. Worse, it could shred a mortal soul. And as I'd walked through the village, I'd sensed it in almost everyone. This sudden infestation of dark magic was the source of the error. Looking at any possible timeline, it should never have been here. Luckily, it was still dormant, not yet activated. With a simple flick of my wrist, I drew all the corrupted essence from the villagers into my hand, crushing it into nothing, then headed in the direction the elder had pointed. I found my target by the river. He was sitting on a rock, whispering to the ring on his finger, his expression shifting from worried to wildly excited. As I got closer, I could hear him. "Teacher, are you sure? To craft the soul funnel, it really needs the souls of those closest to me." A withered, cruel voice echoed from the ring. "Of course. Their affinity makes them the most potent fuel. It yields the finest results." But the boy hesitated. "Humph, you've come this far, and now you waver? Such sentimentality is for the weak," the voice hissed. "Don't you want to make that girl who humiliated you regret it for the rest of her life? This is a small price to pay for ultimate power." Hearing this, the boy's eyes hardened, a vicious, cunning light entering them that didn't belong on a kid his age. "You're right, teacher. I was being naive. It's a necessary sacrifice. I'll go back right now and begin the writ. OW, who's there?" He never finished his sentence. I tapped him on the back of the head. Thump. Nice sound. Good, solid head. I lowered the rolled-up handbook I'd used to hit him and fixed my gaze on him and the ring. The presence inside it had gone completely silent. In my view, the ring was wrapped in sinister black threads, like a venomous snake coiled around its prey. "What are you looking at?" The kid scrambled to his feet, unnerved by my stare. He instinctively hid his hand behind his back and took 2 steps away from me. "Who are you?" "Me?" I tapped the rolled-up book against my palm. "Just a passing architect." "A passing architect?" I could practically see the question mark pop up over his head. Ignoring his confusion, I pointed the book at his hidden hand. "All right, hand over the ring." "No way. Who the hell are you?" he demanded, clutching his hand tighter. Clearly, my introduction hadn't landed. Ugh, this is so tedious. The next second, I was holding the ring up to the light, inspecting it. I gave a little shake. "Hello? Anybody home?" The boy's eyes went wide. He stared at his own hand. The ring that had been on his finger a moment ago was now, impossibly, in mine. "Give it back," he yelled, lunging for me. "Easy there," I said, holding up a finger. He froze mid-lunge, held in place by an invisible force. "Look, kid, you've got your whole life ahead of you. Maybe try getting into something a little less. Soul-destroying? A soul funnel? Really? And you?" I turned my attention back to the ring, which was playing dead. With a mental pinch and pull, I yanked a tattered, malevolent spirit right out of the metal. "And you," I repeated, "instead of moving on to your proper place in the karmic cycle, you're out here tricking kids into sacrificing their loved ones. If I didn't know better, I'd think the auditors in the netherworld sent you out to cook the books." The spirit struggled in my grip, its hateful eyes fixed on me. "Who are you? I feel no power from you at all." "I'm the architect. Didn't you hear me?" I showed him the cover of my book. The architect's handbook was written in big, friendly letters. "Impossible. The architect wouldn't show up in a backwater place like this." The spirit shrieked, refusing to believe it. "I could ask you the same thing. Where did you pop up from?" I gave his spirit a little shake. "Tell me, and I'll send you on your way. And if I refuse, then I'll dice you into a fine mist before I send you on your way." About a month ago, the spirit began, suddenly very cooperative. I was dormant when a strange pulse of energy woke me. It was an energy I'd never felt before, not mana, not demonic essence, nothing I recognized. I followed my instincts and attached myself to this ring. I could feel a powerful, sleeping soul inside it. I've been feeding on him to survive. A month ago, Let's see. My predecessor did in fact alter a causal link around that time. What was he playing at? And that strange energy. I waved my hand, letting a flicker of the system's raw code ripple through the air. Was it like this? Yes. That's it exactly, the soul confirmed. Just as I thought. My predecessor's fingerprints are all over this. That bastard. All right, you're done here. Try to be a better person next life, I said, casually tossing the soul into the void of reincarnation. I then turned to the boy, who was still frozen in place, his expression a complicated mess of fear and confusion. That was a soul eater. You were being manipulated, I said, tapping him on the head again with the handbook. A stream of clarifying energy flowed into him. If you want power, do it the old-fashioned way. Stay away from the dark arts. As for your ex-fiancée, I took a quick peek down his timeline. Who scribbled Sundara in the margins next to her profile? Anyway, just, keep your chin up. I clapped him on the shoulder, gave him a few more words of encouragement, and tossed the ring back to him before leaving the kid to his thoughts. All he needed now was for the original, benevolent soul in the ring to wake up, and his story would be back on track. First job done. Humming a little tune, I returned to the workshop and pulled up the console. Just as I expected, the error report for that region was gone. Time for the next one. Dreadlord Malachur, who underwent a radical personality shift after acquiring a system. What the hell is a system? Dreadlord Malachur of the Blood Hand, the most terrifying of the 4 Dreadlords of the Abyss. A being of pure sadism, decisive, cruel beyond measure. The number of mortal champions who had fallen to him was legion. His name alone could make children stop crying. So what was he doing now? And so, I say to you, we of the Abyssal Plains cannot spend our days simply pillaging and slaughtering. We must embrace a new paradigm of civility and mutual respect. We must learn to be helpful. When you help others, they will help you in return. Only through this synergy can we create a harmonious and friendly abyss for all. Do you understand? The Dreadlord, who usually wore armor forged from obsidian and nightmares, was now dressed in a flashy purple robe, giving a heartfelt motivational speech to a crowd of demons. Every demon in the audience, from the lowly imps to his battle-hardened lieutenants, had a look of pure terror on their face. Their voices trembled as they replied in unison. Why, yes, we understand. Not far away, 3 other Dreadlords, Lord Kalen of the Thousand Eyes, Lady Serpentine, and Lord Forlag the Eternal, were watching the spectacle with deeply disturbed expressions. He's finally lost it, hasn't he? I think so. I heard yesterday he disguised himself and went down to the underworld to help an old lady cross the River Styx. You're kidding. Is he serious? Has he turned over a new leaf? Honestly, I think it's more likely the architect himself descended from on high. Yeah, that's probably more plausible. Right? Wait a second. Who are you? The 3 Dreadlords stared at the young man who had suddenly appeared beside them. He had no discernible aura of power. He might as well have been a mortal. But no mortal could have gotten this close to them without being noticed. In an instant, all 3 of them teleported a dozen feet back, their stances wary. How long has he been like this? I asked, ignoring their reaction and pointing at Malachur. Lord Kalen hesitated. It started recently. May I ask who you are, sir? Didn't you just say it was possible the architect came down for a visit? I'm just here to prove you right. You're welcome, I said with a smile. The 3 of them weren't stupid. Their eyes widened in unison. You're an avatar of the architect. Shoo, keep it down. I motioned for them to be quiet, watching Malachur with genuine amusement. The show's not over. After finishing his bizarre speech, Dreadlord Malachur slipped away to a secluded spot. He looked around to make sure no one was watching. System, was that good enough? He muttered, sounding completely miserable. When do I get my reward? A sterile, disembodied voice chimed in the air around him. Host has completed the motivational speech quest. Reward issued. 1/10 of an ancient demonic artifact fragment. Host power increased by 1%. The next moment, a shard of dark metal appeared in Malachur's hand, radiating an aura of immense power despite its size. Feeling the surge of energy within him, his mood finally improved a little. What's the next quest? Next quest. Within 7 days, challenge Dreadlord Serpentine to a duel and make her agree to become your consort. What? Are you insane? I'm Dreadlord Malachur. I would never challenge another Dreadlord over such a ridiculous quest, let alone try to make her my consort. However, according to this system's biometric analysis, your heart rate increases by 5.2% when in the presence of Dreadlord Serpentine. Lies. As I watched Malachur, his face beat red, arguing with an invisible voice, I sat cross-legged in the air and stroked my chin. I looked over at the 3 trembling Dreadlords next to me, 2 of whom were female. Which one of you is Lady Serpentine? The tallest of the 3, a statuesque demoness, timidly raised her hand. That would be me. Is there something I can do for you, my lord? Nope, just asking. I patted my knees and stood up. Well, that was entertaining. Time to get to work. With a single step, I appeared directly behind Dreadlord Malachur. He was still arguing. And besides, what's the reward for this quest? And the penalty? For you, succeeding in this quest is its own reward. The penalty for failure is BZZT, unknown permission intrusion detected. Before Malachur could react, I clapped him on the shoulder. I let just a sliver of my true authority leak out, and the pressure pinned him in place. Don't move. I invoked my admin privileges and began analyzing this system thing attached to him. Its entire structure, its very code, was completely alien to this reality. I had no idea where it came from. While I waited for the backend analysis to complete, I pulled up my predecessor's logbook again. It didn't take long to find the entry. Swiped a fun little toy called a system from another reality. Pretty neat. I'll just leave it here and study it later. Whoops, I think I dropped it in the abyss. Oh well, a Dreadlord bound to a heroic virtue system sounds hilarious. Let's just roll with it. Of course, it was him again. An artifact from another universe is completely incompatible with our operating system. You moron. No wonder it was throwing up errors. This system tried to fight back, but it was useless. It didn't take long for me to figure out what it was. It was actually a pretty interesting piece of code. I archived in my personal storage. Maybe I'll try to build my own later. I released my hold, and Malachur's tense body went limp, slumping to the ground. He looked surprisingly relieved. Is the system gone? You want it back? Once I'm done reverse engineering it, I could give it back to you, I teased. Malachur shook his head frantically. Never again. I never want to be a puppet to some unknown entity again. Thank you, my lord, for your help. He's even thanking me. Just then, the other 3 Dreadlords rushed over. Malachur, are you all right? He shook his head. I've never been better. Sir, I don't know how to... Wait, where'd he go? He turned and found I was gone. He could only look at his peers, though his gaze flickered for a moment when it landed on Lady Serpentine. He asked, who was that? An avatar of the architect. Dreadlord Malachur. Another problem solved. I was starting to feel a little better, but then I saw all the remaining red dots on my console, and the despair returned. Sigh. So much to do, so little time. Back to work. Next up, Archmage of the Argent Spire being served divorce papers by his wife, who is demanding half of his magical essence. Wait, what? That's weird. Let me read that again. Nope, that's what it says. My expression twisted. I didn't even know you could arrange words like that. The things you learn. The moment I teleported into the sky above the Argent Spire, I heard a commotion. Looking down, I saw an ancient, dignified-looking mage with a deathly pale face staring at a breathtakingly beautiful woman. And surrounding them, in the main plaza, were hundreds of disciples and elders, all watching the scandalous drama unfold. Lyra, what are you saying? The Archmage asked, his voice trembling as he staggered back a step. Lyra, the High Priestess and his wife, raised a scroll high in the air, her gorgeous face an icy mask. I said, I want a divorce. Valerius, from this day forward, we are no longer husband and wife. But why? Archmage Valerius pleaded, his heart breaking. For 1,000 years, you've cared for nothing but your magic. You've never once cared for me. I've had enough. Lyra's resolve didn't waver. She threw the scroll at his feet. If you have any love left for me at all, you will sign this contract. Contract. The devastated Archmage picked it up. That's right, Lyra stated calmly. It transfers half of your magical essence to me. The crowd erupted. Has the High Priestess gone mad? The Archmage's power is legendary, but losing half of it would be a catastrophic blow. He is the pillar of our order. Losing half his power would endanger us all. High Priestess, please reconsider. Besides, what kind of contract can even do that? She must have been tricked by some dark influence. The protests rose in a crescendo, but Lyra was unmoved. With a grand wave of her hand, she projected the contents of the scroll into the air for all to see. There is nothing more to say, she declared. This contract is witnessed by the architect himself. It cannot be false. Me, sitting on a cloud and eating popcorn, ? Don't drag me into this. Valerius looked at Lyra's cold, determined face, his eyes filled with anguish. It's my fault for neglecting you. If this will make you happy, then I will agree. Archmage, you mustn't. Master, think about what you're doing. Ignoring their pleas, he signed his name on the scroll. The moment he did, something impossible happened. I felt a portion of my own administrative power being invoked automatically. It was preparing to slice through Valerius like a blade, cleaving his magical essence in two. The process was moving with the speed of a runaway train. Me! ! Oh no, you don't. At the last possible second, I grabbed the emergency brake, yanking back the admin privileges that had been mysteriously hijacked. That was close. If that ridiculous contract had actually gone through on my watch, I'd be the laughingstock of all the other architects in the multiverse. My predecessor doesn't count, of course. I pulled up the code behind the contract's so-called divine law, and there, hidden between the lines, was a little note only another architect could read. This looks like it'll be fun. Let's give it a try. Awesome. I'll give you a try, you son of a... Using that malicious code as a trace, I ran a search and destroy on every similar contractual law in the system, stamping a giant red delete over all of them. Down below, Valerius had closed his eyes, bracing for the agony of having his very soul torn in half. Lyra stood watching, her face a mask of calm, but if you looked closely you could see a flicker of anticipation in her eyes. 1 second passed, 3 seconds, a full minute. Nothing happened. Realizing this, Lyra's composure finally cracked. She couldn't understand it. The calm shattered, replaced by disbelief. Why? Why didn't it work? It's impossible. This contract was sworn by the architect. Valerius opened his eyes, feeling his power completely intact. He looked at Lyra in confusion, because the contract was cooked up by an idiot for a cheap laugh. A new voice echoed in both their ears. With a sharp snap of my fingers, the entire spire froze. Everyone and everything, except for Valerius and Lyra, was locked in time. Who are you? Valerius was instantly on guard, pulling Lyra behind him. This person could freeze an entire region of space, a feat even he couldn't perform. This is the third time I've heard that question today. Are we really going to do this every single time? I was sitting on one of the stone griffins at the edge of the plaza, taking a bite out of a mana-infused apple I'd plucked from a nearby tree. It was actually pretty good. Finishing the apple in a few bites, I clapped my hands clean and looked at Lyra. Where did you get that contract? Lyra shrank behind Valerius, her eyes darting away. It was a gift from the heavens. What's it to you? Trust me, I didn't gift you that piece of garbage. In a flash, I was standing in front of her, bypassing Valerius completely. With the architect's view at full power, the being known as Lyra was an open book to me. I could clearly see something strange, deep in her consciousness, influencing her thoughts. It was a concept. Its name was the Groveling Redemption Arc. It was trying to force a plot line where Valerius, after this traumatic event, would have to win her back, leading to a tearful reunion where they'd make up and she'd benevolently return his power. A classic slow-burn romance trope. Me, I'm so tired. I'm just so tired. My predecessor. When the actual hell kind of fanfiction garbage did you cram into my reality? I was done talking. I reached out and gently swiped my finger across Lyra's forehead. A glowing, spherical concept detached itself and floated out of her mind. Lyra let out a small, pained cry. Valerius roared, his caution forgotten. A wave of killing intent erupted from him as he threw a punch straight at my face, a man willing to defy heaven itself for his wife. Oh, so you're approaching me? Well, at least it proved he genuinely loved her. I tucked the glowing orb of pure trope into my sleeve and gently pushed his mountain-shattering punch aside. Relax, I told the stunned Archmage. Look at her. I gestured to Lyra. She was pale, her eyes filled with confusion and disorientation. But as her gaze fell on Valerius, it softened into warmth and overwhelming guilt. Valerius, I'm so sorry. I don't know what came over me. Her voice broke into a sob. He immediately pulled her into his arms, stroking her hair. It's okay, it's okay. I was the one who neglected you. It's my fault, too. Then the two of them turned to me and bowed deeply. Thank you, my lord, for your intervention. Don't mention it. I can't let the last guy's screw-ups affect my performance review. I gave him a casual wave and departed. On my way to the next hotspot, I decided to multitask and fix another bug on the list. A sorcerer, comatose for 3 years after a magical accident, woke up 2 weeks ago, has since been speaking nonsense about no-scoping and camping the bridge. Most alarmingly, he has taken to calling random people mom. I read the error log, completely baffled. None of those terms were native to this realm. Could it be? I pulled out my universal communicator and dialed a number. It connected quickly. Yeah, who's this? Is this the architect for Earth? I asked. The caller ID says you're the architect for the Azure Realm. What's up? Are you letting your souls leak into other dimensions to become transmigrators again? Huh? What? You're breaking up. The signal's really bad over here. Can't hear you. Please leave a message after the beep. Click. I stared blankly at the communicator. Okay, case closed. Is there a single competent architect in this entire celestial cohort? You just wait. After I'm done cleaning up my own mess, you're next on my list. Muttering to myself, I engaged my admin privileges. If the subject was a transmigrator, the erratic behavior was probably due to memory corruption. A simple stabilization should do the trick. Easy peasy. While the process ran, I took a peek at his memories. GG no re, get wrecked noob, lag. What strange incantations. I didn't get it, but I'd heard about Earth back when I was an intern. It was a strange place, a factory for reincarnators and transmigrators whose primary purpose, it seemed, was to travel to other worlds and steal their princesses, saints, and sword maidens. The memory repair finished quickly, and I arrived at my last stop for the day, the Serene Peak Sword Sect. Today, the renowned Blade Saint, a master of unparalleled skill and icy demeanor, was about to betray her order for a young novice from another school. Let's see what this is all about. I watched the tense standoff at the gates of the mountain monastery. On one side stood the Blade Saint, Seraphina, dressed in pristine white robes, her aura as cold as a winter storm. Behind her, a young, baby-faced apprentice named Leo clutched her sleeve, his face a mask of fear and anxiety. On the other side stood the entire leadership of the Serene Peak sect, led by their stern-faced abbess. Their expressions were a mixture of shock, disappointment, and fury. Seraphina, do you have any idea what you are doing? The abbess thundered. For some unknown boy from another sect, you would betray us? You would steal our most sacred technique, the art of the flowing blade, and give it to an outsider. Seraphina's face was calm, but her eyes were filled with an unyielding fire. She sheltered the boy behind her voice ringing out like a clear bell. Abbess, respected elders. Leo may be a novice, but his talent with a blade is immense, and he and I share a bond of fate. In his hands, the art of the flowing blade will shine brighter than ever before. Absurd, one of the hot-headed elders scoffed. A bond of fate? I think your mind has been addled. You have walked the path of the sword for centuries. Your will is pure as forged steel. And now, for this boy, you would commit treason. Sister, turn back before it's too late, cried a disciple who was close to her. The boy Leo spoke up frantically. No, it's not her fault. It's me. It's all my fault. And on him I could feel it. A ridiculous, over-the-top aura of destiny. It was as if the world itself would bend to his will. The air was thick with melodrama. This feeling is familiar. Floating on a cloud, I silently opened the architect's view and pulled up the permission logs again. Every other reality has a chosen one with plot armor. Why doesn't mine? Am I cheaping out? Fine, I'll just make one myself. The cold, untouchable master falling head over heels in love. It's a classic trope in other worlds. Let's set it up. Me. I knew it. forcibly suppressing the urge to scream a string of celestial profanities at my predecessor. I focused on Seraphina and Leo. In the architect's view, I could see pink, ethereal threads wrapped around Seraphina's soul. The other end of those threads, unsurprisingly, was attached to Leo. It was obvious. The Blade Saint was being influenced by his manufactured destiny, forcing her to act completely out of character. It had turned a master of iron into a love-struck teenager willing to throw everything away for a boy she'd known for a few weeks. Sigh. I was so tired. This was such a cheap, cliché plotline. My predecessor had absolutely no taste. Down below, the conflict was about to boil over. Seraphina's hand was on the hilt of her sword. The monastery's defensive arrays were beginning to glow. I couldn't just watch anymore. I took a step forward, materializing between the two factions. My sudden appearance made everyone freeze, their swords half drawn. The abbess watched me, her eyes sharp. She knew I had appeared from nowhere. Seraphina's gaze fell on me as well, full of suspicion, though her grip on her sword didn't loosen. "You are just a passing architect," I said, cutting them off with my now-practiced introduction. I looked at Seraphina. This woman's spirit is afflicted. An external force is clouding her judgment. Nonsense. Seraphina's eyes flashed with cold anger. My will is clear, my soul untarnished. I will not stand for your slander. We'll see about that in a second. I wasn't in the mood to argue. I simply invoked my authority. Seraphina tried to resist, but against the raw power of the system, her struggle was meaningless. I reached out, my finger pointed at her forehead, and with a flick of my will, I severed the unnatural cord of destiny, connecting her to the boy. At the same time, I reached over and stripped the absurdly overpowered aura of destiny off Leo. What? What is this? The next moment, Seraphina felt the fiery, irrational emotions that had been consuming her rapidly drain away. Her face, for the first time, showed utter bewilderment. Leo's eyes seemed to clear as well. He looked at the armed standoff, looked at Seraphina, and a belated wave of terror washed over his face. I took the ball of concentrated plot armor and dispersed it back into the ambient energy of the realm. How do you feel now? Still want to betray your order and give him your sacred sword art? Seraphina stood frozen, her face flushing with shame and horror. She replayed the thoughts and actions of the past few days, the reckless impulses, the so-called deep love, and it all seemed so ridiculous now, so utterly alien. The iron she had spent centuries forging had been bent so easily. An overwhelming wave of shame washed over her. With a thud, she fell to her knees before the abbess and the elders. My mind is clouded. I have made a terrible mistake. I beg you, abbess, elders, punish me as I deserve. The members of the Serene Peak sect were completely dumbfounded by the sudden reversal. The abbess looked from me to the kneeling Seraphina, then to the terrified Leo, and understanding dawned on her face. She let out a long sigh. It seems we misjudged you, Seraphina. Rise. We will discuss this later. She turned to me and bowed, her tone now full of respect. Thank you, my lord, for your aid. You have saved my disciple and averted a crisis for our order. All in a day's work, I said with a wave. My eyes drifted between Seraphina and Leo. Well, I should be going. Good luck to you both. Looking at their timelines now, I could see that they did have a genuine connection in their future, but this incident had just forced it to happen prematurely. It was within an acceptable margin of error, not enough to trigger a report. I leave them to figure it out. With the last of the critical fires put out, I returned to the workshop. I stared at the console. The number of red dots had decreased, but the screen was still a dense, angry rash of errors. I stood there in a long, heavy silence. What I dealt with today, it was just the tip of the iceberg. The console was still screaming at me with other, even weirder bug reports. An unknown artifact has appeared in the Eastern Wastes, causing a massive conflict. A helpful architect from a neighboring reality informs me the artifact is called a keyboard. The nine-headed dragon emperor of the Southern Wilds has returned from his campaign to find that his youngest daughter has been replaced by a shape-shifting imp. The real daughter is missing. A Grandmaster-level mage is about to cripple himself to prove his innocence after being falsely accused by a novice-tier apprentice. I looked at it all, and my future seemed like a vast, dark, bug-ridden ocean. This realm is broken. It's completely and utterly broken, and the one responsible for all of it. I took a deep breath, my eyes narrowing. My dear predecessor, you just wait. I will hunt you down. If I have to chase you across every reality, to the very ends of time and space, I will find you, and I will make you fix every last one of these damn bugs yourself, and